Whenever you're ready, Mark.
Yeah, looks like
All
we
right,
have.
we got 63 on so far.
Yeah.
We'll wait one more minute and then we'll start.
Gabe, how you doing?
Oh, good. Hanging in there. It's been quite the whirlwind. I know you guys are experiencing the same thing.
I know I missed that meeting with you with Kelly, but we want to try to reschedule at some point.
Sounds good.
All right, let's get started then, guys. So welcome. This is our third webinar. I'm Mark Cantor, president of MSYSA, and I just wanted to go over a few quick topics before we get moving. The rules, everyone should listen in the mute mode. Please be respectful and announce yourself if you speak and your affiliation. Also want to know that this webinar every week is being recorded, so you could go back on our website and listen in case you have to leave early or you can't make the next one. What we try to do every week is bring someone on to give a little bit of an idea and a direction of where we're going. Last week we had a CPA on helping direct us to some of the programs that are out there in the federal, state, and local agencies. The week prior, when we first kicked this off, we had Skip Gilbert, CEO of US Youth Soccer. He probably will be on this call again, listening in, or if he can. There's a lot of big things happening at US Youth that they're going to be sending out in the next week or two. So stay tuned for that. And just want to make a quick announcement before we announce our guest for today. Next week's guest is going to be State Senator Brian Feldman, who works closely with Governor Hogan, on a lot of these decisions. So next week should be very interesting to get a state perspective of what's happening for all of us. But today we're lucky enough and we're appreciative of having Councilman Gabe Abernas from Montgomery County, who's going to join us for 10 or 15 minutes to give us a little bit of insight of what the county is doing and thinking throughout this COVID-19 issues. Go ahead, Gabe.
Well, thank you all. And for a little bit of context, my dad put a poster of Pele in my crib as I was growing up, and skipped out halfway through my baptism to watch Pele's last soccer game. And I played for the Bethesda Soccer Club and played for MSI and played in college. And my son is now carrying the torch forward. So really frustrated not to be playing games right now. And I just want to begin by acknowledging and thanking all of you for your leadership for so many years, and just let you know that I'm praying for you guys and all of our small businesses and all of our organizations, especially those that serve our youth, which are so critical at this time. So I know Paul, my son, has been logging in and getting tips and pointers from some of your various clubs and associations that are out there, and stuff that he can be doing at home, which he's trying to do. But just want to start from that place. So for a little bit more context, I am chairperson of the county's Health and Human Services Committee. So I'm involved in many of the county's phone calls in partnership with our public health officials, as well as our Department of Health and Human Services. And there are many of these calls, as you guys can imagine, and the information is constantly changing. But unfortunately, there are several themes that have stayed consistent from the very beginning of what we've all been experiencing. And that, number one, is that because of the lack of testing, which continues unbelievably more than a month into this crisis to be a huge issue, we still don't have a perfectly good picture of exactly what our situation is here. We are continuing to fly blind. Our public health officials have been working diligently to help prepare us for what they're referring to as the surge, which is where we anticipate the peak access of hospital visits. That's generally what we mean by surge. And so the county has been doing a number of things, but we've been working with our 6 local hospitals, as well as NIH and Walter Reed, to prepare bed capacity, and the county appropriated an additional $10 million. They're anticipating that that peak will occur sometime in the next 2 to 4 weeks. It has moved up, which is actually, in fact, a good thing. And that's because so many of state and county residents have been adhering to the guidelines of staying at home, much better than a number of other jurisdictions. And so we're going to start to see more of those hospital visits over the next few weeks. And the hope is that we won't come close to seeing what had occurred in New York because of all the efforts that everyone has been making. And so that has, as you can imagine, been a large part of the planning. We've also been working on trying to get the PPE to all of the providers that are out there, not just our health providers, but also the people from our group homes to try and contain this. The second bucket I will mention that the council has been focused on is trying to provide some economic relief for local small businesses. And I know a number of you on this call qualify in that category. And so the county did make available with an application that went live on Wednesday afternoon, and they've already received over 3,000 applications. But they made available $20 million that they're going to give out the first $10 million in $10,000 increments. And then from there, make a determination on which organizations will receive more above and beyond the 10,000. And to be eligible, you had to have fewer than 100 full-time employees, and you would be receiving grants up to $75,000. Now, we are obviously working with the federal government and the state, and we have a call later this afternoon with our congressional delegation who are already working on the next round of financial support for local jurisdictions. And so we'll get more information about that in the very near future. And the county is also exploring making a second round of resources available to help those organizations get through this very difficult time. And to be eligible for this most recent round of 20 million, you had to demonstrate at least a 50% loss in your revenue through a variety of different means. So, but more funding will be coming available in the near future. It likely won't be made available until later this summer. We did find out this morning that the state's distribution for Montgomery County will likely be about $128 million, which we will be able to utilize primarily to help offset some of the expenditures that we've made. And once we offset those expenditures, that will give us a little bit more flexibility to make more funding available. But that $128 million is supposed to last us through December 1st. And so, we are doing our best to spread that out. And we had our first economic impact and assessment yesterday on Tuesday in a briefing from our council staff, and we will be receiving another one on next Tuesday because the county's third quarter tax receipts will begin to paint the picture of what we can expect. But we were drawn up 3 different scenarios, with the worst being a possible $600 million loss in county revenue. And that, of course, is out of a $5.8 billion budget, which is substantial on a number of different levels. The hotel recordation tax is obviously almost nothing right now. We're not getting any taxes from, obviously, our restaurants. And frankly, you guys with the tournaments and the incredible economic impact that your organizations have is obviously fallen off. So that is something we're assessing and evaluating. But it is alarming, and I think we can all anticipate that for the upcoming year, the news is not going to be good. It's going to be very challenging to get through next year's operating budget, and some pretty significant reductions are likely going to have to be made. And I see Brad Bruce is on the call, and he and I lived this 10 years ago when I was at the Recreation Department. But the Parks Department, Recreation, tend to be on the bottom end of the sliding scale when it comes to local county reductions. They obviously try to hold the line on Health and Human Services and other essential services like our first responders and public safety. And I suspect that our recreation, parks, and also our libraries are going to, unfortunately, once again, take it onto the chin. And so, very difficult decisions are going to have to be made within those organizations in the upcoming year. And that will play itself out in a variety of different ways. I will mention some potential with a lower capital P, good news. One of the things I am working on right now is, as you all know, the Community Use for Public Facilities, which is responsible for the coordination of the rental of all county fields, ballparks, and gyms. They are an enterprise fund. And so they charge and then use the money that they charge to help offset expenses, but then cover their administrative costs as a county agency. And I have felt for a long time that they shouldn't be an enterprise division because I believe what they're doing is a public service, and it contributes to our health and wellness. It contributes in so many ways to the county. So I am exploring, again, with the lowercase e, because we have to see how the budget plays out, but I am exploring the possibility of waiving CUP fees, which would mean the county would have to underwrite the costs so that CUP could continue to do its work and pay for its staff and all that it does with regards to maintenance through the end of the calendar year. So that could potentially be one expense that our athletic organizations may not have to pay. Now, I'm going to work on that. I'm not sure I'll be able to get that through because that reduction will mean supplementing their funding by several $million. And in a budget that we already know is going to be extraordinarily tight with very difficult decisions that have to be made, I don't want to make any empty promises, but it is something I'm going to try and do and work on. And then finally, I'll tell you what I know with regards to when things are going to start to begin to look like they did before all of this. And it will never be the same, I should mention that, at least not for quite some time until the testing and the vaccine is developed. The governor is going to be making an announcement during his press conference at 2:30 today regarding an extension of the closure of our statewide school system. We have not been given an indication on what that date will be, whether that is through the end of the school year, whether it goes into the summer, we don't know. We will find out, unfortunately, in real time as the governor is making that announcement. But I would encourage all of you to listen to that press conference today because it will be substantial. We are also expecting him to make an announcement similar to Virginia and the District of Columbia on the extension of the stay-at-home order. Again, we don't know what date they are focusing on, but we do anticipate that he will be making an announcement with what that later date will be this afternoon as well. So, and then trying to think if there's other updates that I can provide you guys. I think, I've been asked this in various chats, from organizations who are trying to plan their summers and trying to figure out what, how to organize, how to plan. It goes without saying, even if we are able to incrementally open various programs and various facilities, because the testing is it's not going to keep pace. It's just not. We're doing everything we can, working with our local biomedical companies, but the complete dysfunction at the federal level and the lack of leadership is just astounding. And so local jurisdictions and counties are 100% on our own. And everybody is trying to get the same equipment. Everybody's trying to get the same access to the same tests. And we're competing not just with other local jurisdictions, but other countries around the world. And so I do not anticipate, and I hate to say this, but that we will have sufficient testing to allow governors and states to begin to release some of the orders to allow large group gatherings. I just don't see that happening anytime soon. And so that is, something that is terrible, but I think something I know we're beginning to process and have been for some time. But it is important for us. And we don't know exactly when the end will be. But I suspect that a lot of this will carry through the summer at a minimum. So I will stop there. I wish I had better news right now, but that is some of what we are dealing with and some of what we are seeing. But as soon as we have more information regarding funding that's made available, we will certainly share that with you and the other associations that are out there.
Okay, Gabe, we really appreciate your information and coming on. Does anybody have any questions for Gabe before he leaves?
Just want to say thank you to Mr. Gabe Abunazo, who's a tremendous human being who's doing for the less community and especially in the Montgomery County. And we thank you so much to continue empower the privileged kids and look through so we can go through this pandemic and soon get back to the field and then let enjoy what the kids like to do. So we thank you so much, and then we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Coach Fofo. It's good seeing you, buddy.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, Gabe, this is Dan Giffen from OBGC. I just wanted to give you a shout out for the staff there in the office. They've been outstanding with communication back on refunds, the policy. They've gotten back to us in a timely manner. So if you can give them, some positive feedback there in the office, I appreciate it. They've been really good when I've been talking to people throughout the region. They've been a bright spot in all this. That's all.
That's really good to hear. Thank you. I will pass that along.
Thanks, Dan. Anybody else before we move on?
Yeah, quick question. This is Sean with Bethesda Soccer Club. You mentioned large group gatherings not being open till the summer. Can you go, I know it's all theoretical, but some of our camps, we have maybe 10 kids show up. Some are 100. What does large group gatherings essentially mean?
I think, unfortunately, anything over 10 people, the social distancing rules are going to continue to apply. And I think if in reverse order, that led us to the stay-at-home order is the order in which they're going to start to release some of the issues. So, for example, most recently, there's a requirement now that you have to wear a mask when you go to one of the essential businesses that are out there. These more recent dramatic measures that have had to have been taken will start to be the first ones that are alleviated, and then you can kind of pull back from there. So that's one way of thinking about it. But the social distancing beyond 10 folks is probably going to remain in place for I would suspect. Now, I'm not a public health official, just giving you my read of the tea leaves, probably through the summer.
Yeah, I agree. Any other questions for Gabe before he leaves? Comments?
Hey, Gabe, this is Brad. I just wanted to let everybody know that we do not have, there is not a better advocate in the entire state of Maryland than Gabe as far as youth athletics. And I know he has a really soft spot for soccer. And in particular, the whole idea of the public field fees is something that's been on a lot of the webinars with US Youth, the staff, and the fact, as usual, that Gabe is taking kind of a leadership role and at least looking at that area to see what can be done for the next year to either eliminate or help offset some of those fees is awesome. So, Gabe, again, thanks a lot as usual. Really appreciate everything you've done.
Thanks, Brad. All right, I got to bounce off, guys. I got another one of these. I'd way rather be on this call than the one I'm about to get on, believe me. But
Thanks
you
again
all
for
so
joining
much.
us,
Thanks,
Gabe.
Gabe.
All right.
Thanks,
I
Gabe.
really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, so just to recoup on some of the things, a lot has happened throughout the week. Just want to go over with you, touch on a couple points, and then we can talk about them now or later on. But one thing I think everybody should have it by now, MSYSA sent out a letter concerning our support for the clubs in Maryland and DC. Number two, the DA has canceled their programming. It's done. It's not going to come back. So there's going to be other options for the players. There's ODP, which has never been stronger in the state of Maryland. So for the DA players that are trying to find a new home, we urge the players to consider ODP for the next season, because it's our coaches are wonderful and the program has never been better. And there's also the MLS has announced a new structure that they're going to be discussing soon. In fact, Dan Giffen wanted to make an announcement about that and a small discussion. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mark. This is so new. I know a couple of clubs that are on here probably have had some outreach directly from the USSF, but I just wanted to let people know that if you do have questions here, our academy staff is finding out things, just as quickly as they can. It's pretty rapid in terms of what how this is, come about. We kind of knew it was coming, last week or so, but in terms of like a name for this or a timeline, new information like that, what I am asking, and I spoke to Mark earlier today, what I'm going to ask people to do is you can email me and I'll put that in the WhatsApp thread, and I can connect you with our academy director, who is overwhelmed right now with the COVID crisis alone, and then this unveiling. So if you do have questions about that, my point is simply that it's still really fresh. And to Mark's point, there are other options out there. It's obviously going to serve well for some other leagues and obviously ODP for choices. But if you can email me, I can get you and expedite, questions directly, and then we can share those. And we may explore into having him even speak a couple minutes here in our call coming up next week.
Dan, if you would, could you post on the chat?
Yeah, I will do that. I was going to, we're on the same page. I was actually going to do that too.
Thanks, Dan. Getting back to the state letter that was sent out, I wanted to have Trish, who was the chair of our committee, speak briefly about the thought process going into our support for the clubs. Trish?
Thanks, Mark. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. First, I'd like to thank all the members of the committee. This was a pretty fast turnaround from last Friday to get this done, and I appreciate all their help in editing this letter. We had a few themes that we wanted in the letter. The first is we wanted to educate parents that most of our clubs are nonprofits. They have limited reserves, cash reserves, and that a lot of the coaches and administrators are continuing to work during the pandemic. We wanted to remind them that the importance that soccer plays in their child's life and the value that it has. And we wanted to ask for their patience as the clubs work through the financial decisions that they have to make, that are tough decisions. We did discuss refunds. I know that's come up. We felt that the financial decisions of a club should remain with the club, that your membership, your financial situation, what monies are coming in, your expenses. We don't know that, and we felt that it wasn't appropriate for us to weigh in on that. I would like to add one thing. If you haven't seen it, there's a really good webinar, the Aspen Institute Project Play webinar. Our own Lisa Freitz from Bethesda is a speaker on the webinar, and there's a lot of really good information and guidance on this. But one of the things they did was a survey, and it will reflect probably very similar to our community. But one of the surveys was 1,600 people, and they were talking about financial decisions. one of the things they said was 30% of the people surveyed said that they would offer future credits in lieu of refunds. 56%, and this is pretty amazing, thought that their program revenue would lose 50% in the next year. And 35% already had to furlough or lay off employees. So I think it's important. It could be something very good to share with your parents as you go through this. Lisa, I don't know if you are on the call or if you'd like to say something more about that. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I thought you made some excellent points. She may not be on the call. I think that pretty much wraps up our thinking on this letter. I hope that it's helpful to you as you talk to your parents.
Thank you, Trish. So the last announcement, and most of you already know that the U.S. Youth has announced that return to play will be extended now until May 15th. And based on what the council members mentioned a few moments ago, it doesn't sound like we're going to get back on the field anytime soon, unfortunately. We don't know that for sure. We're holding out. We're hoping that something happens, in a positive way, but it seems like the unknown is still out there, and we have no idea when and if we'll be able to return to play, unfortunately. But as always, please see all the updates on our website, because we update it a couple times a day with pertinent information and updated information. As soon as we get it, we put it right up there. Next slide, please. So Alan Lidier is going to talk about updates with coaching education, the academy, and some other things. Go ahead, Alan.
Thanks, Mark. So yeah, just thanks for jumping on the call, everybody. Obviously, this morning, we got notification from USSF Coaching Education Department that we're now extended through till the end of June. We did have a C license scheduled to start in June, so I'll be reaching out to all the candidates on that to discuss its obviously postponement and possible dates. As well, we had two D licenses that were second meetings, so they were we had a conference call last week, and I mentioned now we have the official announcement, so I'll be reaching out to those as well. That also means for the clubs, registration to host any courses is postponed until further notice. It's certainly not going to be till possibly early July when we can start to take on some new dates. And again, we don't know if that deadline will be extended. So unfortunately, everything's on hold when it comes to coaching education. What I do, obviously Mark mentioned about the Development Academy. Obviously the new MLS, but US Youth Soccer, Skip also made an announcement, sort of welcoming clubs back into the US Youth Soccer framework, and obviously, and their competitive programs and leagues, so as well as ODP. A lot has changed over the last couple of years, around US youth. So for those clubs that obviously are looking for a new home, it's another great option. I'd always welcome as well, any discussion with clubs with relation to ODP. ODP is 43 years old and continues, to stay strong for, and it's a great opportunity for a lot of individuals. Obviously we know that the DA was team-based. ODP provides an individual option, that's possibly more affordable, it's less commitment, and it can be supported by the clubs as well, by you guys. So, certainly welcome any conversations, any sort of challenges that you've found in the past, or I'd welcome a conversation or centered around ODP. There are clubs, throughout the state that are really active and engage their players, and I think we could do a little bit of a better job as well with some others. So, like I say, my number will be available at the end, but feel free to reach out if you want to have that conversation. So, last one was yesterday. We hosted our Sports Session Planner demo. Sports Session Planner is now available for, we got 100 licenses that are available for free. We've had lots of engagement over the last couple of weeks with clubs reaching out for coaches. It's available for individual coaches, or we can provide several licenses for the club. Generally the year subscription is, value of $56, but it's a fantastic framework. And I'm just going to try and switch over just to provide you with a quick example or some of the changes that we've made, essentially. Just give me 1 second. Can you guys see that screen now?
Yes.
The Sports Session Planner. So essentially the biggest change that we've made is we've added in some additional libraries. So Sports Session Planner have provided us with some EPL libraries. So from the English Premier League, a lot of the sessions that are utilized in those academies. There's 3 different libraries. Obviously they describe their age groups. Foundation phase is 9 to 11. Youth development phase is 12 to 16. And then we've got the pro phase, which is 18 to 21. So these libraries are available for the coaches to be able to go in and build session plans. So they can pull from these sessions in any of the age groups. And as you can see, there's a ton, hundreds of sessions that they can clone, copy, utilize in their own sessions. So it's a great resource for the coaches. Also, we have the club sessions, which basically means that anybody that is given a license through MSYSA, whoever creates a session and shares it to the club, we basically can see all of those sessions. So whoever, we got ODP coaches in there, completing, I'm adding sessions all of the time in different formats. So again, it's a great tool, great resource for the club. If you want your director of coaching to establish some sessions or provide some ideas for your coaches, just to show you how quickly it is to be able to build a session. Obviously that's the biggest thing is time. So, so looking at, sorry, just go to the library. Yeah, we can just go into the libraries. We'll look at 18 to 21. I like that one. It's going to be my warm up. That one's going to be my session. And there's the final one. And bang, I've got a full session ready to roll based off what I need. So again, great resource for your coaches. I'm going to be sharing the link for the demo session for yesterday. We're going to be hosting that on the website. I'll also share it to the WhatsApp group, which obviously will, most of you are on. I'm going to share that information now. Just get the screen back up. Yeah, you can see that one.
That looks like Southern Wales, that shot.
Yeah, sorry, it's just let me just get back to that page so I can provide you. So there is, again, for those of you new on the call, if you haven't been on the last couple, we have a trying to get a club leadership group together. So anybody in the club who wants updates, we're just sharing links and information through the WhatsApp group. Just send me a text. If you're in WhatsApp, already and you utilize it, just to send me a text in there. It's a lot easier for me to be able to add it. If not, send me a text message and I'll shoot you the link for you to download the app and get added to the group. So that's pretty much it for me. You know, like I say, if you need any help with when it comes to coaching education and any sort of resources, obviously it's a great time to be you know, studying and engaging your coaches in learning opportunities. You know, so reach out if you need any sort of resources. I am planning on possibly putting together a few webinars centered around the grassroots coaching, but also we obviously have the online courses there as well if they want to earn the license. So Mark, back to you.
All right, thanks, Alan. I appreciate it. That was good information. For people that have visual, I know a lot are on audio only, but for visual, I want everybody to point out that our executive director is at the beach while all of us are suffering and working hard getting through this issue. She happens to be at the beach.
It's a little windy here today, guys.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the cabana boy to come by. But we're good. We're all good.
Good. So next I'd like to have our registration specialist for the state of Maryland, Jessica Hafer, is going to give a little report on some follow-up issues that they've been working on. Go ahead, Jessica.
Hello, everybody. So I just wanted everyone to know that our week was very successful in initiating the first setups of programs within everyone's club. Please remember to reach out to myself or Got Soccer, my apologies, Got Sport, if you still have not had access or you want to get in there to add any more admins to have access within your club. If you go to our website, MSYSA.org, under the registration tab, you will see the links regarding the Got Sport phases and the registration webinars, so that you can follow the links to get the one-on-one training, which we are also doing. So stay safe, and I hope you visit our website and reach out as needed to help set up your clubs so that we can have a very successful fall or early summer if possible.
All right, thanks, Jessica. So I've gotten a lot of feedback about these webinars, and it's all been positive. I think our club's affiliates, members feel good knowing that, you know, we can get a weekly chat like this. Just sometimes there's not much to report other than knowing that we're all in this together and we want to help each other through this whole ordeal. And we're trying to make it exciting. That's why we're bringing in guest speakers every week to help with a different angle on either the COVID-19 issue or soccer issues. So in conclusion, as I said in the beginning, next week we're going to have State Senator Brian Feldman on, who works closely with Governor Hogan. We'll probably get a lot of insight of what the state is thinking about as far as getting back to some type of normalcy. I'm interested in hearing what he has to say next week. I think we'll keep the time and the date the same, Fridays at 11:30. So put that in your calendar. And we also use the chat device on the webinar. So if anyone has any questions that want to just send them to us during the webinar, we can always, like we did last week and the week prior, always read your question and try to get someone to help answer it. There hasn't been any questions today, so I think most issues I think everybody understands. And if there's not anything else, I think we're finished for today. Anybody want to have any other discussion before we end it?
Hey, Mark, it's Brad. Hey, Alan, on your first slide, you listed this back to play date as June 30th, but was that just for coaching education? Because I don't want anyone to get confused, because I don't think we've determined that date yet.
Yeah, sorry. So it's postponed through June 30th. So nothing can take place until that day for coaching education. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, no problem.
That's a
Just
good one.
checking.
Thanks, Brad. Good catch.
Any
I have
other
yeah.
comments?
I have a quick question since Brad is here still, and maybe in general. So with the State Cup, when will we do? Obviously, we don't know when we're getting back on there. Having said that, is there kind of a line in the sand that we're looking at so if we're going to go forward with this? I got the link. I've got to get some more feedback from people on that. But is there a date that we could say, hey, we're going to make up our mind if we're going to move forward with this? Because I'm trying to juggle if we're going to have leagues and then the State Cup too this summer.
So Dan, I doubt, I can't say that there is a line in the sand, but I will tell you that we've had internal conversations stating that we'd like to have a decision by June 1st or in that general area. We're holding out hope. The way I look at it is we would have to give teams about 10 days to train to get back on the field before we could start any competitions. And, you know, as of right now, the latest we thought we could play was that first weekend in August, which is like the 1st and 2nd. We wouldn't go beyond that just because of school sports and other things being kind of confused. So that's about the best answer I can give you right now. I was going to send out an email just reflecting that to everybody so that they kind of had an update.
Okay, well then if we've registered and we are all set to go with that, unless there's something that's dramatically different, like, oh, my players say, oh, we're all going to be back off at college by then, if it's that late, should we just keep it as is? And what do I tell the younger teams then? If you've registered, just hold the line and we'll know something by, you know, potentially early June.
So yeah, when we find out that we can actually do this, and again, we're holding out hope. I would say I'm using the word cautiously optimistic, with maybe underlining cautiously. I would say this: before I would do anything moving forward, I would reach out to every team directly to make sure that they were set to play. As I said before, if for whatever reason a team cannot play this year, that's fine. We'll offer them 100% credit for next year. If the team is aging out or dismantling, then I can talk to them directly as a one-on-one basis. But I thought that MSYSA made a great decision in giving 100%, no admin fees, which we've already had quite a few, no credit card fees, and we'd give 100% credit for next year for the cup again. So I won't do anything until I hear back from each individual team about whether they want to move forward or not once we get the idea that we can.
Great. Any other comments while we're all together?
Real quick, this is Tim Ryerson, Ellicott City Soccer Club. I just wanted to thank the board for putting out that statement from the state. So thank you for taking the time and also putting that out.
Appreciate that, Tim. Thanks.
Just a quick question from here. Phases 2 and 3 of the GOT Sport rollout, there'll be upcoming webinars. Do you have any kind of idea of the schedule for those?
Hi, thank you for your question. So sorry about my dog in the background. Someone just walked past me, one of my children. So on our website, if you select on msysa.org, we already have that posted. Again, sorry about my dog. And you select registration. Right under registration, you will see GOT Sport Phase 1 training. If you select that, GOT Sport Phase 1 training, and you scroll down, you will see all of our phases. So right now we're slated to enter into Phase 2 on May 15. But again, if you want to get started even earlier than May 15, you can set up the one-on-one, which there's the link right there. And if you want to set up your merchant account, the link is also right there on that same page. So all the information is on that And then, of course, my contact information is registration@msysa.org. And my cell number is 410-330-8692. You're welcome to contact me and we can discuss it further.
Thank you very much, Jessica. You've been very helpful again.
My pleasure.
Perfect. Other comments, questions?
Mark, I was just going to suggest if anybody else has any future speakers they'd like us to contact or any topics that they'd like to have on the webinar, that we, welcome them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So far, we've been pretty lucky having, speakers every week, but we're going to run out eventually. Another thing is that a lot of people mentioned that this would be a good idea once we're past this disaster that we're going through and we're back to some type of normalcy. We're thinking about having these webinars, maybe not every week, but maybe once a month for all the members that get together like this, just to chat about, ongoing issues, tournaments that we're having, ODP, State Cup, President's Cup, rec programs, all the different things. And I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good way for us to get together because obviously we have a good venue and we know how to do it now. So plan on having this once a month after we get back to play. More comments, please.
Hey, Mark, this is Dan again from OBGC. Just wanted to say
you're limited to only 2 responses.
No, I've never been short on words. So I just want to remind everyone, I have been texting here in the background with Dave Sanford from our academy. I'm going to work with him to see if I can get him on here to answer any questions directly, or we may be able to get somebody from, the league. But like I said, the ink is still dry on that. But short term, he said just have him send questions because even he's finding, stuff out. But I'll see if I can potentially get him to jump on here if it helps.
Perfect.
Hey, Mark, it's Flo. I just wanted to comment on when Brad was talking about State Cup, that this also works with President's Cup as well, since Brad has been kind enough to offer to help us this year with President's Cup, and Sean Fleming as well. So we're working through all, for the clubs that have entered President's Cup, that we're working through the same type of time frame. So I just want to make sure everyone understood that President's Cup is kind of in the same, we're lumping both the cups together to try to find the best, the best path forward for both of them.
Got it. Anything else anything else? Okay, I guess that's it. So we'll conclude this webinar, and like always, we usually chat a little bit after it's over. So if you want to stay on and ask any other questions, we'll be here for a couple more minutes. Other than that, thanks everybody for joining. I hope it was a informative session today. Next week we'll have Senator Brian Feldman on, which should be really interesting to hear the state perspective. That's it. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Mark.